Okay, this is a meeting of the Salem County Improvement Authority. It's Monday, April 22nd, 5 p.m. And we're in the lower level of the film hall building. Call the meeting to order. Please stand for the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, notice of this meeting has been provided to the public in accordance with the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act by publication in the South Jersey Times, formerly the today's Sunday, and the Elmer Times newspaper circulated in Salem County, by posting notice in the Salem County Clerk's Office. Copies of the board minutes and the video of this meeting are posted at SCIA.com. I might remind everyone that we are on film here, and tomorrow morning you can,
Till Friday.
or Friday or whatever, a couple days you can watch it. But I don't watch the thing yet, but I want to do it. Okay, tab 1. We have minutes of the. I'm sorry. Passed over roll call.
John Over,
Here.
Ron Howard,
Present.
Pete Burrows,
Here.
Lee Schneider, Winfield,
Here.
Did Lou call?
No, he did not. He was
Okay,
in
no
Boston
problem.
earlier, though.
Huh?
He was in Boston earlier, and I did talk with him on Friday. But I have
Okay.
not heard.
We have minutes of March 25th. Entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved. Second.
Move the second. Any question on the motion? Move the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Okay, solid waste division, tab 2. We have the Linda Williams division manager report.
Good evening. How's everybody?
Good.
You have my statistical report in front of you as well as the written report. I just have a couple of things I'd like to highlight. In the customer aging report, which is number 2 on my written report, we have a full payment from Coastal Land Contractors today of $91.99, and we have a full payment coming from Sickler Construction of $180.51. There was a little problem with their email, so they were not receiving the invoices. So they didn't receive an invoice, they didn't make a payment, so that's been corrected. And the landfill height is currently 140, and I noticed on my, that's because that's for this month. So on the statistical report, it shows it's 135 in your graph, but it is 140, and on top of cell 1 and 2, we're actually up to 145 right now. Dave and I were looking at the statistical report, and we noticed that revenue for landfill tonnage is up comparative to last month, the same year, last year, the same month, almost 100,000, which is pretty good. And the non-Salem County entities are creeping up a little bit, so that's a good thing, making a little bit more. I have a new street sweeping customer from Gloucester, and I have a new slightly contaminated cover material customer coming in with some really nice sandy stuff, 1,700 tons.
Where's that?
That's coming from, let me think, Far Hills, Somerset. Any questions about my written report or the statistical report?
Yeah, number 7.
Sure. Number 7. Oh, yeah, okay.
It says there's a difference. Is it a positive or a negative difference?
Positive.
Both of them are positive?
Yeah, always, always.
That's,
Yeah,
that's a positive spin on it,
Yeah.
but it may not.
I know. No, it is. And I do that year to date. I don't do that month to month. I do that year to date. So it just, yeah, I think that's a better calculator than doing month to month.
Yeah, this difference could be either way.
Yeah, no, it's a positive. I would have to tell, I would tell you really sadly if it was not. But keep it up there. Any questions about the number 6, the new projects and the City of Salem leachate project?
Well,
Which is
I
on
do
hold.
want to give a report, yeah.
Yeah.
No later.
I gave you a big paragraph.
And
It's a lot to read, so I'm sure you have some questions about that.
I have a question, and it may be better the engineer answer. The leachate gallons per month graph. Does that tell us anything?
Cell number 8's open.
Huh? Well, I know it tells us that.
Would you like to use mine?
Sure.
These would be the raincoat.
Well, if you have to look at all the data, you've had twice as much rain
Well,
in the period.
that's what I meant,
You have to use
and
mine.
I
Mine's not
suspect
in there
that.
For some reason. It didn't-
Well, no, I don't need that.
You don't need that, you
No.
want that?
Just a couple of differences. You've had actually more than twice as much rain versus the same period, but your leachate is not doubled. It's less than.
Well, that's my question.
Less
Right?
than.
And we know it jumped up, but that was because we opened a new cell.
Right.
So
that
if
too,
you
yeah.
could put them, I think if you took 20 minutes and put timelines on that, it might tell us something.
Yeah,
I mean,
I definitely think that the rain cover is having an impact, certainly helping to reduce the volume. But as I told you before, it's hard to put exact numbers on that
Well,
because there's so many different variables.
I think after several years, this graph will tell the tale. But I think it's telling a bit of the tale right now.
Yeah, it would be great if we had a better way to segregate the old landfill from the new too.
I understand that.
Right now.
But I'm looking at this timeline, and I know when that went on, it dropped down. I know when the next place opened and it jumped up. I know we had a lot of rain,
Right.
so I'm saying that should have been up higher, compared to last year. You
Or
know?
if you could compare it to like an average of 5 years.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, this is not.
I don't think, if we wouldn't have opened cell 8 and we would have just had the rain tarp on, I think you would have seen a more significant
I
difference.
understand.
But cell 8's like a bathtub,
Yeah,
and as soon as
I understand.
the pumps come
Yeah,
on,
yeah.
that.
No runoff
that
from
leachate's-
cell 8, it's all going into the
Right.
leachate system. Right.
So I'm going to put those dates right on here myself.
Okay.
Okay, that's all I have. Anybody else have any questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain,
Thank you.
without objection, I'll receive the report and file it. Hearing no objections, so ordered. Next item, let me get back over here. I'm going to take this out here. What do we got? Engineer's report, I'm
So I
sorry.
just stay standing. You have my report dated April 15th. Of significance, the horizontal expansion, that project is closed out and they're into the maintenance bond period. The wetlands mitigation, GZA, has begun collecting the groundwater data. We met with them and the landfill staff to go over the data they're going to collect and how they're going to report it to us and that kind of thing. Still haven't heard on the final approval of the closure plan. And the temporary rain cover of that project is also complete.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of the engineer? Hearing none, without objection, I'll order the engineer's report received and filed. Hearing no objections, so ordered. Okay, where are we at? I'm sorry, I know we got to pay the bill, don't we? The resolution approving the solid waste division bills, and their totals are $224,121.14 through the checking account, or through paper checks, $141,893.15 electronic payment.
I'll make a motion to pay bills.
Moved, is there a second?
Second.
Moved and second, any questions on the bills? Hearing none, moved and second, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Okay, next item. Economic Development Division Manager's Report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You will have my written report in front of you dated today. Just one update on the water tower, the installation of the OEM. I have checked with them. They have been to the planning board in Oldman's Township. They're waiting construction approval, and that's because of the shed that they'll be putting on there. So they need the construction permit, but everything looks good. That was kind of a little bit of a delay back and forth between departments. So, but checked on that last week, and everything is on the go right now. So we'll see. The only other thing that they are checking with is the FAA because of the airport that's in that location. So they want to make make sure that there's no obstruction for flight pattern over there. Everything else is pretty much up to date. If you have any questions on any of my report.
The marketing distribution, the brochure, which one is that? That's not this one.
Yeah, the brochure you and I went over the other day. Okay, the marketing program that we will be having is a different marketing, and that'll be advertising. Okay, just received some quotes on pricing with the advertising on the regional scope.
Our neighbors next door, you know about them, 2 seats.
They're good. They're good to go. You're talking about the Nelson House
Yeah,
project?
right. When do you think they'll be breaking ground?
Supposed to have been today, so I don't know where they are with it, but they did. They have been a settlement.
Yes.
Yeah,
Right.
so we will be starting with it.
And how many units is that?
30
30.
units. Deed restricted, home ownership only.
Okay. Any other questions? Hearing none, without objection, I'll order the report received and filed. Hearing no objections, so ordered. Okay. Resolution approving the bills for Economic Development Division. The bills are $2,180.32. We paid the checks and no electronic payments. Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve those?
Second.
Move second. Any questions on the bills? Move second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Nursing home division. Okay, we have bill. Oh wait, we haven't collected the money. Have we collected the money from the county? This is
That wait till my report?
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is the annual PERS payment.
Oh, okay.
This
Oh,
is the
I'm
annual
sorry.
PERS payment.
Okay, I'm sorry, I thought this was the, okay, entertain a motion to approve the bill of
I'll make that
$217,000.
Second.
Move the second, any question on the motion? Hearing none, move the second, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed. Okay, by the way, that's electronic payment, I believe, right?
Yes. Oh,
Okay. Executive and Finance Committee, we met several times over the last couple of weeks. The main question is, before us, is the county refinancing of the jail and we'll call it the consolidated bond, I guess. We have not gotten the correspondence from the county, is that correct?
we've received the letter and the resolution from the county. We've requested a revised copy of the resolution since it didn't record the vote. So that is a financial transaction that requires a 2/3 consenting action by the freeholder board, and the resolution we got didn't record the vote. So, but we are moving forward with that. We've corresponded back with Katie Coleman, who is the county CFO on that. And we've had a conference call with bond counsel, and we have a request for proposal for underwriting service, which was released as of Friday and is out on the street today.
Okay, so, and do you have it in your report, or
I do.
timeline? Okay, so.
I mean, while we're on that topic, the rough timeline is between now and July. Local Finance Board, we are expected to be with the Local Finance Board in June. We understand that there is a supplemental schedule now when a authority and public entity go before the Local Finance Board that must be answered. We received copies of that last week, and we're working on that 25-question survey.
What do we anticipate that the savings to the county will be?
In excess of about $57,000 over the life of, the remaining life of that loan.
Which is, how many years?
Oh,
left?
it's a $6,400,000.
No, I mean, what's the term?
Oh,
Your
you've got
term.
another 15 years on that? I will
Is that
double
what
check
it is?
that, I
Yeah.
believe so. I'll check on the term on that, but no.
That are in the county's pocket, than the bank's pocket.
Yeah,
Okay, so what do we need to do on that?
that's just your report.
That's the report. Personnel Committee report.
We just had one phone conversation over one of the employees, got their certificate, and Debbie goes over that one later.
Okay. Any questions? Any none?
So,
Yes, sir.
what's the committee structure?
Well, we were waiting for you to be appointed on the committee.
I
because-
see there's standing committee reports, and I only see one for the landfill, which is actually the solid waste committee. Is that?
Well, say again.
The agenda, he's looking at the
Yeah.
agenda.
Is it the agenda? Okay. For April 4th?
That's the one that meets routinely every month, and the only one that we'll actually have a formal agenda for, since we have the engineers.
Yeah, unless there's some specific,
Is there some, what's the group on that?
Pete Boros and no one else yet because
Okay.
the people before are gone. So we were waiting, we thought someone else would be appointed, and then we waited, you got appointed, so we'll get those resolved within the next couple of days. And the reason that was so specific is because it was carried through the expansion program, and we needed, week to week surveillance of that. So, okay, so we have the committee reports. Any questions so far? Hearing none on the first two committee reports, without objection, I'll alert them, filed, received and filed. Okay, now it's the solid waste, I'm sorry. Economic Development Committee report, and we don't have a committee item filled in. Oh, here he is. I haven't filled in on that. Basically, we're getting together our 5-year plan. We're going to ask Phil Rowan to comment on that in a minute, which is, I guess it's required, statute requires it, I guess. And our big problem is the 2 vacant parcels, actually 3, 2.5 vacant parcels, if you call it, at the industrial park. Now, we understand that there's been some inquiries about that. It was dormant, as we well know, for 3 years, 4 years. Obviously because of the economy, but the people who own that property indicate that there are some activity. I know myself that the industrial park at exit 10 is getting full. And how I know is I happen to lease some property over there and they're up my rent. Yeah, and they were lowering my rent before, now they're upping it. And the reason they're upping it is because there's not a lot of space left. So, and I talked to those people that I deal with, and they say the market is not on fire, but showing an upturn. So when that fills up, and by the way, they have a couple of new starts over there, it'll be our turn, to probably file them. By the way, they're opening another section over there, which I didn't realize, but hopefully within the next few months, maybe we'll get some real activity there. So that's that. Any questions? Hearing none. Solid Waste Division report. Pete?
And we got the baler, so we got moving forward with that. It's gonna bring a lot of money in for us and help out the community needing to bring the product in, and we'll get it out and baled. We're solving our air compressor problem. We have an air compressor we're working on, and it passed away, so we're getting a new one and we're making sure.
Passed away already.
Part of it, make sure we're gonna have a nice warranty on this new one and get a long life out of it. And got a lot of challenges with Lansing Electric and their transfer station, shutting down generators without telling us. And as you can see in the report here, everything's a challenge pretty much. Getting close to the top of the last cell. Got the new one open, got a lot of water in there because there's nothing to soak up the water. So we're dealing with everything that comes, and then we had the issue of the leachate, which you're going to touch on later.
Okay. Question. I know we just started with that baler. If I can get an analysis of it, after we have a month or two under our belt to see what the revenue is vis-a-vis the cost?
We haven't sold anything yet, we've only been bailing. Our main operator is now out sick on a long-term leave, so, that's why we'll discuss personnel issues later. But,
It's not been running full tilt.
I understand, that's what I say, that it's-
As hard to judge it just yet.
but I mean, we should be prepared to document, you know, a graph so that
well, when we get to the point where we've got enough that we can sell.
yeah.
And in closing, the team that we have there is really good. It's a pleasure to see how smoothly everything's running, and the engineer and everybody's working together. There's a lot done out there. Thank everybody out there for the good job you're doing.
Okay, any questions? Hearing none, without objection, I'll order the report received and filed. So ordered. Innovation and Technology Committee.
Well, we met with this PCN, I guess it is, was it 2 or 3 weeks ago, right after the last meeting. And obviously the communication issue between here and the landfill has been a problem, ongoing problem. And they gave several different options we looked at, and really we stumbled upon, whatever you want to say, but we may have come up with and I don't know who to give credit to, but it looks like the best way to do this, the cheapest way, and probably the most efficient way is going to be that the school right across the street, the community college, has they have a fiber optic line out to the glass house. And we're going to jump on board with that, it looks like. It's going to, all we have to do is communicate between here, all right, across the street, and then between from the glass house, or the glass building, to our facility. Each one is a small distance, and that communication should be pretty easy. One of the best alternative beyond that was a T1 line, which is an antiquated, basically still copper, and that was what, $599 per month per direction, I think it was. It was $1,200 a month it was going to cost us just to communicate. And this looks like a shared service agreement, which will cost us just the antennas between the two facilities, pretty much, and it seems like a go. It seems like a very good deal for everybody. So.
The carrier pigeons went up, man.
I'm telling you that, you know, they sat here and they had some other plans, and of course, used network is one as we looked at. I didn't think that was going to work, but this, and I asked Debbie just exactly how we stumbled upon this, but apparently Comcast didn't think they had fiber optic out there. Verizon, but somebody went by and said, hey, yeah, you got fiber optics out here, huh? Oh, do we? And we only have fiber optics between our own building and the scale house. So it looks like, you know, even a blind squirrel finds an occasional nut, right? So.
Good deal.
So.
Okay, so hopefully our worries are over on that score.
Sooner as opposed to later, yes.
Okay. Any questions? Hearing none, I'll order without objection, I'll order the report received and filed. Hearing no objections, so ordered. Where are we at? Executive Director's report, and that's behind tab 6. There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My report is attached here. Nursing home, I'll highlight some things for you. As you know, we've been dealing with this Medicaid audit adjustment from 2006 and 2008. We do have a reduced amount that is still under appeal. It has gone from $267,000 and change to about $110,000 and change. I will remind the board that a portion of that does go back to time periods before the Salem County Improvement Authority was in ownership and operation mode for that. So once those dollars are figured out between what was incurred before August of 2009, when we assumed operation, I'll be back to the board with specific numbers and for us to figure out how to deal with that relative to the county. Because that was from the time period and the bills from when they were operating. Their amount, it looks like it's about 60-40, about 60,000 on their side, about 40,000 on our side, give or take some. The large bill that was paid for the nursing home is what we anticipate being the final annual PERS payment for that whole facility. Remember, they bill 2 years behind, so that's the final annual bills. On the solid waste side of things, you've heard already from our engineer and our solid waste manager. Our leachate tank number 2 project is ready to move forward. We are anxious and hopeful to move that project along very quickly given the rainfall totals and leachate that we've seen produced out of that new cell. We're also before you tonight for the approval of the notice to proceed on bidding cell number 9. We are about a third of the way in cell number 8, so that is going very well. We are putting the soft trash material on cell number 8 while the other material goes up top, but it's getting smaller and smaller up top, and it's certainly higher and higher. Also, with those daily operations, we have curtailed leachate hauling to the city of Salem following a reported odor and a sheen on March 26th and a more noticeable odor and sheen on April 1st.
No, February
February
26th,
26th,
March
sorry,
1st.
March
Yeah.
1st.
That's okay.
It was recommended that we curtail the hauling of the leachate until we could identify the source of this material. We've been back and forth with the city and have had weekly conversations with them on Fridays. They've done some analysis on their side. We're doing analysis on our side for total petroleum hydrocarbons and volatile organics. The items of interest that we thought we would have some concern with in terms of total dissolved solids and ammonia have not been problematic, but this appears to be some kind of oil or solvent material. We cannot confirm that it is indeed coming from our leachate, hence why we're pulling the samples from our leachate tank. It was material that was not seen at all during the pre-sampling and pre-testing that we did before getting approval for this from the DEP. We did have extensive conversations with CNH about where those tankers were before they hauled our leachate, and one did come from a partially contaminated recycling facility over in Cumberland County. However, it remains to be seen until we see what the analyticals are, exactly what it is we're dealing with. The unfortunate part is that it appears that the city sludge may be contaminated with some of this material, and they are also having to analyze their sludge because they have a permit to land apply that sludge and may not be able to land apply if this is not in keeping with the DEP's standards. So again, we'll touch base with them on this Friday. We expect to have our data back by this Friday, and the sludge data should be back by next week. And then we'll evaluate where we go with that.
And did I read in one of the reports that they've never had an oil sheen in Salem?
That's what they told us.
It's hard to believe.
They've said they've never seen an oil sheen out of their facility. And their permit obviously requires no noticeable sheen at the point of discharge. But,
Well, you're pulling off the bottom of the leachate tank, right? You really shouldn't have oil there.
correct. But we're also thinking that if we pull it down and have it foaming, if there is anything, it's floating, and we would see it then. So the samples we pulled were under normal circumstances. We thought we would try and pump that in that tank when we can get it relatively low, just to see if there is anything floating on there. But it would have, in our opinion, it would have shown itself in any of our normal leachate sampling or in the extensive sampling we did prior to this if we actually had oil sitting in that tank. So, but suffice to say, at this point in time, the city is very guarded and very cautious about wanting to start the project up again without truly identifying what the material is and what the source is. We've even offered to basically secure a dedicated tanker for this project, so it basically only takes our leachate back and forth and it's certified clean when it gets here. And their view is right now they really want to make sure they know what they are dealing with first before they even consider restarting the project. So.
That's their loss.
Okay, question. We're hauling to Delcora regularly. Are we grab sampling that now?
Sampling's done at Delcora on every load.
Say again?
Sampling is done at Delcora on every load.
So they would know if there was a solvent or a petroleum product in
Of
it.
the 49 analysis that Delcora looked at when I talked to them, the highest they ever had of TPH oil and grease was 18 ppm.
Is that good or bad?
That's 8 ppm over the effluent limit for the city of Salem at 10. But when the city of Salem analyzed, when they had the problem with the sheen, it was 40 ppm.
Okay, that's what I'm getting at. So, our defense is, there is no defense unless we inspected that tank and like somebody volunteering to get down in there and check it out every time. That won't be nice. Seriously, it's a problem,
We'd love to
because,
be able to identify what the material is first.
well, I understand that, and that's why I asked about the ductwork, and I asked, and we never emptied the tank, is that correct, or,
No,
so
can't.
you would almost have to empty the tank, correct me if I'm wrong, to get that oil, unless it was whole oil. Yeah, because oil, you know, I remember when I used to fly airplanes, and water was at the bottom, and oil was at the top, that's the reason I know that.
Well, having treated your leachate in the past, I know I'd be surprised if Salem County can handle it, or Salem City can handle it anyway.
You surprised, you'd be.
I'd be surprised.
Because
It's just not built for that kind of waste, their treatment plant.
Well.
Yeah, they can do
Sanitary.
one tank a week maybe and, you know, make things run a little bit, but it's too strong a waste. Dissolved solids, as you probably know.
Mhm. But that's not where we're having the problems
Yeah.
yet.
Well, that's why I'm surprised.
Well,
Oil's
they had good
factor.
results with it, aside from the, correct me if I'm wrong, they had good results aside from the oil, the solid oil, or the sheen, whatever that was. Is that correct?
Yeah, we've not had any other parameters, with the exception of this sheen solvent material, that have raised any concerns at the one, we were only doing one tank load.
When you test them,
Everything that's on the permit, including total dissolved solids, suspended
COD.
solids, long-term CODs, yeah. Now, some of those are longer-term chronic tests as opposed to the acute tests. So stay tuned for the word on that. There's no further update on the administrative order and civil action with the DEP, other than we're continuing to communicate in regards to some, diesel emissions reductions that we might undertake. Lou gave a good update on where we are with the PCN network. We do have the scope of work here for your approval this evening. I know it was a question at the last meeting about whether HughesNet could be a viable solution. Actually, in our conversations with Salem Community College, their technology manager did say that when that building was first built at the gas to glass facility, they used HughesNet. They hated it, it was expensive, and they got rid of it as fast as they could. Dish and DirecTV are not direct providers of internet services. They bundle already existing Comcast or Verizon packages, so they're not another solution we can look to. Having looked now at what is our three most viable options, which is either a point-to-point microwave, which is very expensive from a infrastructure standpoint, which is what the county has between downtown and the OEM. The second option, which is the old T1 line, and the third option, which is to piggyback on top of the Salem Community College. And having spoken both with President Bailey as well as their IT manager, everyone is in agreement that creating a dedicated tunnel through a already existing fiber network is absolutely the way to go. And a shared service agreement would be in order. We would draft it, send it to the community college for them to amend it and add their items onto it. It would be very negligible cost. But we do still need the antennas, obviously, because we'll be needing to replace those. And we'll need our server. So we're anxious to get started with that project. Just a couple other things on the budget. The Division of Local Government Services has finally signed our budgets last week. All Improvement Authority budgets had been set aside in favor of some other more important work, is what they told us. But they should be back here in our office this week and will be posted on our website. Our audit for 2012 is wrapping up. As you notice, the auditors are no longer on site. They completed their on-site work on Friday. I think you'll be very pleased once we do have the audit findings for me to be able to report to this board that your team out here did an amazing job over last year, and I'm anxious to share that report with you. Our website is now fully compliant with all of the state statutes and public laws regarding what postings are required on there per the authorities. We will be updating that every month with the resolutions, minutes, and agendas, and other documents that will be necessary to be updated accordingly throughout the year.
do you need to list employees on that?
Yes, we do. Conferred with our solicitor on that matter. The way the origin of the statute came, it was for any individual as well as professional service provider. that received enumeration over 17,500 over the course of a year. So it's his opinion.
Yeah, it's
that
very,
we-
it's very open, it's very broad, and just
Yeah.
says anybody's being compensated in excess of 17.5. And when you track the legislative history, it was actually designed first for the employees, and then they rolled in, it appears as though what they want to do is roll in everybody else, independent contractors, professionals, so they made it very broad as
So
to.
it's even salary,
Yeah.
it's not extra payments, it's just regular employment.
Yeah, but it's not like they're working at the dump.
Well,
The
that's,
landfill.
That's got a new name. What's our new name?
Resource recovery,
Yeah.
it's energy
So,
production.
yeah, it's an upstanding.
Yeah.
yeah, it's just a surprise to me that they have to be listed.
And those, our employees were notified of that during our employee meeting last Thursday, where their names actually appeared up there, because we wanted to make sure we were fully compliant, but openly disclosing of them as well. On the Oprah front, it's been a rather quiet month. We have had no new Oprah requests until this weekend, when we received one from the county freeholders. I don't know, Freeholder Vanderslice, if you're aware of the Oprah request that was filed on behalf of the freeholders?
I'm not.
No? Okay.
On behalf of the freeholder or one freeholder?
Well, it's coming from freeholder board, and the director and CFO and
Oh, okay.
county council were all
Okay.
copied on it, so I presume it's coming from the freeholders. So perhaps I'll reach out to Freeholder Cross and get some background information.
See if you can slim down what he's asking, because that's gonna be a lot of work.
Well, some of it is very vague, and so our understanding of what is being asked for and why is important in answering that. And just a couple of other upcoming events. As a reminder, you should all have received your notice from the county clerk's office about the financial disclosure forms being due. They're typically due on April 30th of every year. They have a new, over last year's, online reporting process. So the deadline has actually been extended to May 31st this year. So that's something I can't even give you a form to help out with anymore. You gotta do it online and make sure it gets to the right people up at the state.
It's not
was it an
online as
email?
of today.
Wasn't online as of today. Gotta love the state.
No, I looked at it the other day, I couldn't find it.
It's
It's
really,
supposed to be on the clerk's
Oh,
thing,
it's
right?
put-
Yeah,
it off.
county clerks.
County clerks, I think.
Yeah.
it's-
Yeah.
I got mine.
Well, it would have been mailed to your
That's the
house. Actually, I'll make a copy and send it to you. You said you didn't get one. A couple other things. We do have a May 1st meeting with our freeholder board for an annual update. May 2nd, we will be providing testimony to Pennville Planning Board about a zoning change they're looking to make. And then May 1st and 2nd, and then 8th and 10th, various staff and I will be in and out of the office either for training or to attend the ANJAC conference. The Improvement Authorities as a governing entity, the Association of the Improvement Authorities, are giving presentations at ANJAC this year. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions of the board? Hearing none, without objection, I'll order the report received and filed. Hearing no objection, so ordered. Now what? Old business. Okay, we still have the how we come on those collections in nursing home?
I'm afraid to say, we've pretty much gotten blood out of a rock, but not very good. So
Yeah.
we're gonna be asking for the charge-offs very soon. I didn't really wanna do that till I saw where we were gonna be with these audit findings, because some of that affects the balances of these patient accounts before we discharge them. But it's been 2 years. Statute of limitations is basically,
Okay, new business. A, support of preservation, tax exempt financing. This gets attacked every 4 years.
yeah, it looks like it has maybe some new life to it, if I can just expand on it a little bit. In talking with bond counsel and also our financial advisors, it appears that at the federal government level, the tax exempt bonds are coming under further review as possible ways to help us resolve some of our debt. And while the general principles of eliminating the exemption for tax bonds certainly could close a budget gap, there's some concerns there because it's basically going to shift costs to the local municipalities and counties that can indeed issue tax exempt bonds right now, which means it's going to go right back into the taxpayers' pockets. And we're going to be putting out money in a different way. Some of the theories that are evolving around this issue is that perhaps when there are tax exempt bonds issued for private projects, that there be some kind of payment made back for those private projects back into the coffers at the federal government level of maybe 25%. On behalf of the Association of Improvement Authorities, all of the boards have been asked to consider adopting this resolution and sending it on to our legislators so that they can understand, or at least hear us out in terms of what the implications might be if they were to eliminate tax exempt bonds across the board. So that's the nature of that. I did provide some background reading and some articles that were provided relative to
Let
that
me
as
ask
well.
Phil, Phil, you been up on this?
Yes.
Okay, this is an administration bill?
Yes.
Okay.
But there are a lot of people in Congress, Grassley from Iowa, a lot of people who have been pushing to get rid of the tax exempt status.
Okay, but is that for municipalities and counties, government entities?
For all local, all non-federal, because, federal bonds are taxable.
Oh, I
So
understand.
the idea was to,
So-
eliminate this so-called
So
loophole.
if Woodstown wanted to build a new sewer plant, under this plan, it would be taxable.
Right, so instead of getting bonds at, say, 3%, they pay a market rate of 5%.
6% or
something like
5%,
that.
I understand.
So as taxpayers in that community would pay more for debt service.
So the alternate is, there's a group of people in Congress say, okay, keep the tax exemption for government entities, counties, municipalities, and so forth. But the industrial bonds, tax that,
The private activity bonds, yeah.
right?
Small issue in those.
Hospitals, redevelopment areas, that kind of thing, right? Am I getting it right, or am I missing the point?
Sort of, there's a lot of different initiatives here. It's all part of an issue to raise more money, which, what's new about that?
Well,
So just a question of whose ox is gonna get gored here. So if you get rid of tax exempt status for states and counties, municipalities and authorities, then the local taxpayers are gonna pay more money. So it's a question of, and so in the federal ledger, more money's gonna shift over to Uncle Sam, but it's gonna come out of local
which is
taxpayers'
what's
budget.
been happening over the last
Right.
5, 6, 7, 8 years.
Probably the average person, the president paid 18%, but the average person's paying over 20% in federal taxes, which is pretty staggering.
Now, how about existing issues?
I don't believe it affects existing.
Right.
Once you have a contract
Right,
for an interest payment, that's locked in.
How about refinance?
So this comes up every
I know.
3-4 years. I remember when Bill Bradley proposed this, Senator Bradley
Yeah.
proposed getting rid of this.
That's what he said.
TEFRA,
That's
which
what
is
he
still
said.
around, so, there's been a lot of initiatives. What chance it has of getting through, who knows? There's so many issues on the table right now, but I think, our position should be that, we're opposed to it because it hurts our local taxpayers, and we need money, whether it's refinancing county bonds or getting a new fire truck or building a park or a new municipal building. We need to have that advantage. And it'll question whether people would even buy these bonds. Why would you buy a local bond when you could buy a
Yeah,
federal
so
bond?
instead of going up 2 to 3%, the margin might be 5 or 6%.
Right, so what's gonna happen is local bonds are gonna have to be priced higher than federal bonds. And right now, because of tax exempt status, the net effect is the local bonds are a good deal. It might totally eliminate the interest of people buying local bonds. So, if Uncle Sam goes bankrupt, we're all in trouble. But if a local town was to go under, like is happening in towns in California, so who's gonna buy a bond in a governmental unit in California right now? So if that starts to spread and there's no advantage to it, it's gonna make things real difficult. We'll go back to the days of pay-as-you-go. So save enough money for the next 20 years to buy the fire truck, if you can't finance it that way.
Or don't buy it, let the house burn down.
Well, it's gonna probably make buying that fire truck more expensive, and that hurts everybody.
Well, the rule of thumb was always 3%, as you well know. Martin,
Well,
in the old days.
It's whatever the tax rate is, if the private rate was 10%, we'd be about 7%
Right.
tax exempt.
That's-
On an equal credit.
Yeah. All right,
Motion to approve?
motion approved, I have a second?
Second.
Any question on the motion? Moving and second, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. Oh, boy. Now what? Okay, application to the local finance board. This has to do with the county jail, et cetera, refinancing. And that is resolution number 29th?
Motion to approve?
Uh,
And do roll call?
Yeah, moved.
Second.
Second, any question on the motion? Any questions, moved and second, roll call vote, please.
John Over,
Yes.
Ron Howard,
Yes.
Pete Rose,
Yes.
Steve Snyder,
Yes.
and Robert Whitfield.
Yes.
Okay, we've done that. Okay, resolution awarding contract for water and wastewater field sampling and analysis laboratory services support compliance and so forth. And who is that to?
That is to ALS Environmental, with the contingency that the engineer just has to do the final report of review for the other bidders. The other two bidders were QC Laboratories and New Jersey Analytical Laboratories, both of whom submitted higher pricing. And we just have to evaluate, qualifications and things like that. But ALS is our current provider.
Was
They
this the
were lowest.
larger of the two tanks that we were talking about at one point?
This is analytical testing for, we're not there yet.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Motion to approve?
So what happens on the third year? Why is the third year jump like that?
That's not the third year, that's the total for the 2002, this is only a 2-year deal, 2013 and 2014.
I was gonna say a third year is an optional one.
No, second year's optional.
Okay, let's do that, wherever it is.
You're looking at this, Bob? That was the old resolution.
Yes, could be.
That's the combined for the 2 years. This,
I skipped something there.
I'm not sure where it ended up going.
it's after the bond resolution. Resolution awarding contract for water and wastewater field sampling and analytical services.
Right before the orange.
Yeah, I have that, but I don't have the breakout of the cost.
There's
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
price.
I know, I
I
saw
don't
it
see that either.
on the computer. Can I see that again?
Yep, that's the old
Yeah, I
resolution,
missed
it was
that.
a non-fair note.
Yeah, do we have the spreadsheet on the bids?
That's what we're at, but that's what that is right there.
I don't see it, I just don't see it.
What's the total value
Yeah,
of the
that's the
contract?
additional year. I thought the additional year was a fourth year, or
No.
third year.
1 year
Understood.
with one
Thank
addition.
you.
So what's the total value of the contract
20,493.
93.
for 2 years, correct?
No, 20,493 for the first year, 20,493 for the second year.
Okay.
Total, if we sample all of those points,
Each
okay?
time.
Because remember,
So that's
this is subject
That's
to,
the not to exceed,
not to exceed total price for 2 years is
Right. It could be less.
40,986. Most likely it will be,
per unit. In
You're-
other words, based on the unit.
yes.
Okay, I'm with you.
I made a motion to approve.
Second.
Move second. We have questions. Any more questions? Move second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, D. Motion to authorize those to proceed with civil work for leachate tank. Okay, we approved the leachate tank contract, or not the contract, the scope of services, right?
Yes, this is basically the motion for the notice to proceed with the work,
Right.
so release the bid.
I'll make that motion.
For a 500,000 gallon tank,
It's the bigger of the two.
the bigger of the two tanks, yes.
Second.
Moved and second. Any questions on the motion? Moved and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Okay, that, what's the total value of that?
Total value of this contract is $107,664.
Motion authorizing those to proceed with scope of work for landfill expansion of cell 9. Okay. Entertain a motion on that.
I'll make that motion.
Moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and second. Any question on the motion? Moved and second. And all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, so moving on that. Okay, motion authorizing those to proceed with scope of work for stormwater pollution prevention plan update 2013. When does that due, that update?
Well, it's due whenever anything changes at the landfill, and with the construction, the approval of the permit for the horizontal expansion and the construction of the first cell and the cells to come, it's
So-
time to update it.
That's for what we've already done.
Correct, plus what you're going to do
Okay.
going forward.
So we will have to do it again next year.
Right.
Okay, that's what I was getting at. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to proceed.
I'll make a motion. Second.
Move to second, any questions on the motion? Move to second, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Okay. Here's the one from last month. Motion to authorize scope of work for ZZA. So we got clarified that his starting point is in Bennington, is that correct?
When
That's
Mr.
not-
Mangold is the one who monitors the piezometers, we do not incur any travel costs to or from his office at all. He basically starts out his normal work day and goes into the office. The only time we do incur any travel cost is usually at our urging. Last year, we did have their field engineers come on site with our T&M engineers and the DEP when we walked down the whole mitigation area. And for that day, they did travel from Hamilton to our site. That was the only time we incurred any travel from this company at all. So that is not a normal part of the contract for the ongoing piezometers.
Make a motion to approve.
Is this the old resolution, 1232, are we reapproving that?
No, you awarded the work to GZA, but you did not authorize the scope of work to proceed contingent upon the questions being answered. So this is now the authorization for their work to proceed. You did the resolution already, went through the tape.
On the fourth whereas, it's the executive director is determined and certified in writing that the value of these services will not exceed 17.5, is that?
They will exceed 17.5,
Yes.
sorry. Will, sorry, I will
Yeah,
make
it's
that correction.
280.
Yeah, the price is 28,280, although again, it's gonna be depending on how much rain we get.
Okay, now, motion was made. Want to withdraw that motion?
Yes.
Withdraw the motion. Make the motion again with the correction.
With the correction.
You made that motion?
You-
Second.
You recall a motion or make amendment to the motion?
Amendment.
Well, we didn't get a second. Did we get a second?
No, but did you second
No,
No,
it's
we didn't get a second. Yeah. You don't get a second, I think we're okay.
it? Okay.
So the motion corrected, I have a second.
Second.
There's a second. Any questions on the motion? Okay, no questions, there's a second, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Motion to authorize scope of work for PCN. That's the infamous parent picture.
Yes, again, last month you awarded the contract for PCN, they've begun desktop support. You were provided with the three alternatives, the T1 line, the radio system, which is microwave, and then the Salem Community College Hub. So the scope of work that would proceed on this project is in a total amount of $70,228.74 with a $175 reoccurring monthly cost.
And who's that to?
PCN.
PCN?
Motion approved.
Moved.
Second.
I hate to do this. Moved it.
That's a big difference.
Something tells me there's money down the drain. That's, move second. Any questions on the motion? Move second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Still think carrier pigeons did the job. Where are we at there? Personnel action, 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Scope of work for EDA.
Pardon?
Scope of work for.
Oh, I'm sorry.
EDA.
Yeah, I skipped over that one. Yeah,
We, this is the update, our last strategic plan went through calendar year 2012 for the economic development area. They should be done every 5 years, so we've asked for a 5-year update on this. And Phil, you can talk about kind of the process we're gonna go through this a little bit.
actually, it's a 5-year update in 6 years, right?
Yeah, well, we'll do the work this year, 13, it'll really be effective for 2014. That'll take us through 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, so a 5-year plan. We had done the previous plan, which I thought was a very good exercise here. There hadn't been one done for the county in a number of years, and I think we discovered a lot of things about the county that we didn't know about, at least brought to attention. There was a lot of studies that were done in the past. We reviewed those. Some were good, some just languished on the shelf, which we dusted off, whether it's for air transportation or deep water ports or transportation, a lot of infrastructure things, from the rail lines to everything else that we looked at. And I thought the planning process came together very well, because we met with every town, mayors and clerks and economic development people. We met with the business community, met with lenders, real estate, even some accountants, even some lawyers, about what, because they have a lot of business clients and people like that, just to get different views of what is going on in Canada, what can be done, and some things we hadn't thought about before. So we put the report together. We printed a executive summary, which I think we're still using, which has a list of 24 projects that, and there was a large array. It was probably over 50 projects that were really in the hopper, and we sort of scaled them down to the ones we thought were doable. Some were short-term, like in terms of Gateway Business Park and the rail line and things like that. Some are long-term, like Deepwater Port or working with DuPont and entities like that. Obviously working with the Anchor Glass and things like that. So I had given an original letter proposal, because I already responded earlier in the year about being retained, but this is just for a scope of work. And Debbie had wanted to add a few more things here that we had not done before, which were adding a focus group session that we could do here or in another locale in the county to get some information from individuals and other entities in the county in terms of trying to identify some of the issues that we need to deal with. Also looking at a survey of the stakeholders, mailing out a survey and gathering data. And I understand keep costs down, we'll have an intern available to us, so I don't have to hire an intern, which I try to do every year from time to time. I think it's a good thing to do, getting young people an opportunity to get involved in the profession. And then we actually want to do a professional presentation of the results. I'll have a PowerPoint presentation that we can take around the various groups, and then publish the report, because it's no good to just keep it in our head. We want to get it out to the DuPonts and decision makers. What is our strategy? What are we trying to do? So these reports are more strategic in nature. We look at different things, but then it does come down to execution, not implementation, to getting projects off the ground. So it's about a 6-month process, so we get started now. The latter part of the year, we'll be in a position providing drafts and getting final feedback, and the plan would be by the end of the year to have this adopted.
Tell me about the need to have projects in this to be eligible for federal, state, and...
Well, you always want to have a comprehensive economic development strategy ready. You'll never know when a funding request comes along. I recommend it for all my clients. We just finished one in Upper Southampton, Pennsylvania. Get it done, because you never know when a phone's going to ring. What do you have on the shelf? We're creating an economic stimulus program. We're going to, research recovery projects, or any different kind of project. So I always recommend you have different kinds of projects. The Tiger Grant for the transportation system, or maybe there'll be funds for a Deepwater Port, or funds for converting a sod farm into something else. You never know. So you want to have a multiplicity of different types of projects, because you get categorical grants that come along. Could be state funding. Could be Governor Christie or some other governor, or come up with a great idea. I want to fund X, and you want to make sure you have plans ready to go. So, and they want to see a strategy. They want to see a plan. And what happens to a lot of towns or counties, you get caught short. They'll say, well, to be eligible, you have to have a comprehensive plan adopted. So they scramble to get one ready, and they find out they wind up timing out to get an application. So it's always good to have one at the ready. Federal funding from the USEDA, which hasn't got a lot of funds lately. You never know from time to time. There's always $1 million floating around from the USEDA. It sort of bounces around in the 4 counties between Atlantic, Cape May, Cumberland, and Salem. It kind of moves around. Looks like a lot of the attention's over Atlantic County right now. But someday it'll be our turn, and want to have a plan. We got to figure out what's our top project. You know, what is the most important project we want to have in the county? Because if the feds say, here's $1 million to get this thing off the ground, we want to make sure we have a strategy that's ready to go and a list of projects. It's also a good exercise to get the local people thinking about what they can do. So it's a two-way street, because we're trying to find out from them what they, if you go to any mayor, any of the 15 towns, I bet there's 5 projects on the top of their head. I want to do X, Y, and Z. But then also we can tell them that, what, have you thought about making a redevelopment area? Have you thought about applying to the New Jersey EDA? How about the Improvement Authority can finance certain things? So it's a good dialogue to get out. I mean, we're working with Jim and Debbie. We get out on the street and communicate some of the things we can do to help them. So I think it's a pretty worthwhile program to get involved in.
And just as a sidebar, that example that Phil was talking about, you never know when the funding opportunity is going to come knocking at the door. I believe it was probably about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, Atlanta County, Gloucester County, Salem County, and Cumberland County were asked to attend a meeting hosted by the Pascal Sykes Foundation, which some of us in this room attended, and they are looking at a 4-county commonality to be able to fund an economic development strategy. Well, one of the first things we all went to was our strategic plans to find out where those commonalities were. So it wasn't this tug of war of, well, this is what Atlantic City needs versus this is what Salem City needs. And it's amazing if you look at those plans, how congruent some of those regional initiatives are. Obviously, there's some that are unique to the given area, given whether you have, you know, water on the bay or a railroad or anything. But having those plans on the ready is very important.
It's also the difference between the counties. It's amazing. Cumberland different than Atlantic, or Cumberland different from Salem, and so it's important that you have a specific plan. You know, people in North Jersey may think anybody will look. We're just all farmers down here, but I think that we can show through this planning process that we're more than just agricultural, that we have a lot of other economic opportunities and activities going on. So. And it's really important to make sure the state decision makers are aware of our needs out here, because I think a lot of times we don't get the attention that we need to get. So.
Okay, so
Motion to approve. Second.
Yes, sir.
Queries.
Okay. Move to the second. Question on the motion. Okay.
So we're going to spend 16,000. First off, do we have a strategy now in place?
Yes, we do.
Okay, and we have a 5-year plan which is getting ready to expire.
Getting ready to expire. Have you seen the plan? I mean,
So we're going to spend $16,800. You spend 6 months doing stuff that we kind of basically already know. It seems like 6 months of wasted time. It seems like a paralysis by analysis. That's just, well, you can see where I'm going to vote on this. Okay?
Yeah, well, let me tell you something, not right on mark, but right near mark. In Pollisville Township a number of years ago, we had 5 farms ready for purchase by the state, okay? We went out ahead of everybody else. We got the appraisals, okay? 1,000 acres. Sure enough, it was the end of the year, the money was, they called, what do you have? And we said, yeah, we got a farm already. So we met with them, they said, boy, that's a great plan. They said, what else do you have? We got 1,000 acres in one swoop at $17,000, $18,000 an acre, okay? Because we were ready, okay? If we hadn't been ready, we'd have never got it. We got 1,000 acres, is the biggest pig grant then and now in the state of New Jersey, because we were ready. If we weren't ready, we'd have never got it. And I'm telling you, I know that these plans, when you go to the DEP and you're looking for sewer money and so forth, it is in your plan. There it is. We've been looking for this for 5, 6, 7 years. It's not something we just came up with out of a hat, something new. It's part of our plan. The DuPonts and people like that, they like to see this because they go, yeah, I see that. And there's some projects that are laying around in Salem County that I think will heat up, hopefully, with the economy.
What's going to heat up? What's going to drive economic is a better economy. I get that, all right? I'm not sure that all this is going to do it. But
well, it's going to put us in line. It's going to put us in line for funding, it was available. Now, I agree with you, there's not the old pot of gold at the end of the rainbow we used to get, make a call and you got a couple million, and that don't happen anymore.
Let's vote.
But,
Is this gonna be some duplication from the county? Are they, you know, I'm new to this. There's some talk about the county took over economic development. Are they doing the same thing?
they've never said a word to us about it, so we wouldn't know.
But we would engage their committee, you know.
I mean, the gentleman here,
process, obviously.
they have an organization we've heard about, no one's ever mentioned it to us. But is there, is the county prepared to do anything of this nature?
No, we're not. I mean, and that wasn't the intention of the Economic Development Council ever.
Okay, so the point is, that group should be part of this stratagem to get that input.
Yeah, that would be good.
And to come up with a plan so everybody has their 2 cents in. And if you, the more people you get, and by the way, 5 years ago, we had a lot of people. And
I think you want to have different voices. You want to
yes.
certainly their group should be involved in a lot of the things we do and pick their brain too. So.
Sure.
Okay,
I hear you.
persevere.
John, at the same time, when we do have inquiries from industry and businesses, they do request sometimes our strategic plan. So
We
we'll
have
see
one.
where we are.
Yeah, but they change.
But it's
Some things
outdated,
are
right?
not.
So it's outdated, right?
Economic development changes.
Which is
You
nice.
know, the railroad, you know.
So let's make an amendment, no, it'll cost a lot less than that, we'll make an amendment to it.
Yeah, but you gotta get all the people in and say, that's crap, it's 5 years old. Let's
So
go.
it's probably cheaper than doing a full-blown plan.
I just,
Master plans need to be redone every 6 years. or 10 years.
I shouldn't debate this because I'm not voting. I got a sense where things are going to go. But, you know, a normal, full-blown, large-scale plan, you use there like 75 to 100,000. This is more of an update, just some really fine-tuning of what we did before.
Okay, motion is second. Any more questions on the motion? Hearing none, move to second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
No hard.
I could have bet there, I don't know, $1,000 that would have been. Okay, let's, where are we at? I don't know about. Okay, personnel actions, 1, 2, 3, 4.
First personnel action is the request to permit our summer interns, 2 for the solid waste division, 1 for economic development, and 1 for administration to be brought back. Same prices last year, we don't increase our rates for this interns. 2 would be returning and 2 would be new. Their price is $10 per hour.
Motion to approve?
So how many hours do they usually get in the summertime? Just about
We
12
bring them
weeks?
in less than 12 weeks, is what we say, yeah.
Move to second. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, move to second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Number 2.
Number 2 is we do have an employee who is expected to be out for a long-term leave due to a non-work-related medical injury. He is a pretty crucial part of our operating staff from an equipment operator's perspective. We would like to hire a temporary equipment operator to fill the void. As you know, we are very thin on staff. We're operating 2 phases of the landfill at the same time right now, the Top Hill and cell number 8, and we have no extra bodies to be able to keep moving people around because we've cut so close to the bone here. In the interest of possibly not being able to secure an equipment operator who may be qualified to operate our equipment, Linda has also asked that if we do not secure a qualified equipment operator, that we bump that back to a labor position. Okay, but we really need somebody who can help operate equipment.
Motion to approve?
Move second.
Second.
Move second. Any questions on the motion?
Yeah, if it's a qualification for a qualified guy, how do we bump it back to a labor?
Then we'll take a labor and use one of the other guys to operate the equipment. But we did that is cross-trained individuals who are operating in Scale House as a primary and can operate the equipment. Okay, but we'd rather have equipment operator do the equipment operator's position.
Does that guy require some kind of license or something like that, or?
It won't be, well, we could require the CDL license, although these guys will not be operating off the face of the hill. We're looking for someone who has bulldozer experience, CAT experience, things like that. Which we do have, you know, the BOMEG is a pretty specialty piece of equipment. I don't know that we're gonna be able to go find somebody who can operate that, but we would not put them in that. Would we put them in a compactor? Would we put them in the backhoe? Might we have them operate the crane and the grappler To continue the baling operation, yes. But Linda's approach is, look, one set of hands as a laborer. I'd rather have the equipment operator, but if I can't get the equipment operator, an extra set of hands as a laborer will help.
I see the problem, he's good. He's playing checkers here, he was putting this person.
I can show you the schedule when you come out to the landfill. It's
Uh,
interesting.
How long do we expect this person to be out?
Based on their medical review, it's going to be at least 30 days. Based on the fact that it's a back injury, I might expect it to be longer than that.
And when that person comes back, this position is.
So do I. Yep, that's why we said temporary.
Yeah, so clearly the employee will be
And,
hired on.
and as I said in my memo, this person is no longer in a paid leave status. They're on unpaid leave status, as family medical leave. So the wages, obviously, we're not paying two people to do the job. One person's taking.
So it's within our budget.
Yes, it is.
Okay. So, in motion, we have a second, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, any other questions? Those in second, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Number 3,
Number 3 is a request to create a motion for Michelle Gamber. Upon coming to the Sound County Improvement Authority, I think we were all very aware that we had some significant deficiencies in our purchasing and oversight. Michelle was put on a plan to become a registered purchasing professional in New Jersey, so we could ensure that we have good checks and balances in there. One of the things that you will see a significant improvement in over the prior year's audits is we have no audit findings on contracts, purchase orders, or anything of that like. And a good portion of that is because of Michelle's heavy lifting this past year.
So you have the audit?
The audit is complete. We are waiting upon the report. When it's brought to you.
that's due, not to interrupt you, that's 20, 30 days.
Yeah, we'll probably, the exit conference will probably be in another week or two, and then I expect to have the full report by next meeting.
So this is our first affirmation that there's no findings and recommendations.
Yeah, I have the preliminary report that the auditors gave us.
Motion to approve?
Wait, how long has she been with us?
Michelle has been with us for
Before a week or.
almost 9 years this year.
Did she get the increase in, you just had an increase for a lot of people the first of the year?
She had a performance increase, but I want to make her a purchasing agent so that she can actually, hold that title for this organization, and I think that's very important. Have somebody certified doing that.
Will she put RPPS behind her name?
She will put our PPS. She cannot put our PPO behind her name.
Okay, move to second.
It's the state rules, not mine.
No
No,
second.
we didn't,
Oh,
I'm sorry.
PPA and it's a little redundant.
Okay, entertain a motion.
I didn't make a motion.
Oh, you made the motion.
Second.
Move to second. Any further questions on the motion? Move to second, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
By the way, this is about $1,200
Yes, over her,
action.
yeah.
No, yes, believe me.
The next request is for our Human Resources Generalist, Casey, who was not eligible for a pay increase when we reviewed the rest of the employees. She was still within her initial working test period, and she has already completed all of her state mandated Division of Pension and Benefits training, and now currently holds the title of certifying officer for the organization. She, again, if you look at our prior audits, there were human resource variations in findings and recommendations area. Casey, in working with the auditors and our accounts folks, have cleaned up all of the reconciliations that were needed for the employee contributions and pay. It's my recommendation to increase her pay from $16 an hour to $16.32 per hour. No promotion.
I'll make that motion. Approve.
Second.
Move to second. So her raise will be like $600 or $700, right?
Yep.
Roughly, from 18, what was she getting, 18,000 a year?
16,
16?
yeah. A little bit more than that. Closer to mid-20s.
Pardon?
High 20s.
So would she be one that we would be increasing again in January?
That's going to be dependent upon where she stands with her HR generalist. I think this is now her review period, so this is what I'm looking at for her first year review.
But she's only been here 6 months.
Seven.
It's not a year.
That's correct, that's correct.
In my mind, the proof's gonna be in the pudding is when we get our audit. I don't
I'll be happy to show you the preliminary findings, I don't have the final ones yet.
understand that. But the real proof's in the pudding, usually the cost of doing it, which, we've cut, as you well know, we've cut personnel out of this building, we've cut personnel out of the, matter of fact, we cut 20-some% of our, but we cut 20-some% of our employees, okay? And in fact, increased our revenue, so, of course, it's tight. Okay, move to the second, right? Is that correct? Move to the second, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, correspondence, any questions on the correspondence? Hearing none without objection, I'll order the correspondence received and filed. So ordered. What's next? Oh, I'm sorry, public comment. Okay, entertain a motion to open up to the public. Anybody like to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Second, move second, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Open to the public. Okay, folks. Anybody here? You know the rules? Hearing none. Entertain a motion to close the public portion of the meeting.
So moved.
Moved, seconded, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved, second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Thank you.
Look out,